Before Lewis Hamilton even crossed the starting line at Zandvoort, his race was already over. What the FIA did next sent shockwaves through the Formula One paddock and raised serious questions about consistency in stewarding decisions. The Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort was supposed to be a turning point for Hamilton. The air was thick with coastal mist and tension as Ferrari banners flapped under grey skies. Hamilton pulled his Scarlet SF25 toward the grid, unaware that the real race was already decided for him. Just minutes before the lights went out, the FIA dropped a hammer with an investigation announcement that would change everything. This wasn't about wheel-to-wheel combat or racing contact. The investigation centered on a double yellow flag infringement during a reconnaissance lap. The FIA cited Hamilton for what they called a failure to sufficiently reduce speed near the pit entry under waved double yellows. These warnings exist to protect people on the grid and in the pit lane, but what followed would expose glaring inconsistencies in Formula One stewarding. The verdict landed 3.5 hours after the race had ended. The FIA stewards reviewed positioning data, marshalling system data, video footage, timing telemetry, team radio communications, and in-car video evidence. Their analysis was forensic in nature, but the delay in decision-making raised eyebrows throughout the paddock. The data revealed that Hamilton had entered the double yellow sector, approximately 20 km per hour less than his speed at the same point in practice sessions. He had reduced throttle application by 10 to 20% and had lifted and braked earlier when entering the pit lane. The stewards noted that Hamilton moved his braking point 70 meters earlier than normal. However, the FIA determined this wasn't sufficient. We did not consider that a 20 km per hour reduction in speed at a double-waved yellow sector constituted reducing speed significantly, they stated in their official ruling. We also did not consider the speed at which the driver entered the pit entry road as being at a greatly reduced speed. The punishment was a 5-place grid penalty for Monza, Ferrari's home race and Hamilton's first Italian Grand Prix as a Ferrari driver. The stewards admitted the penalty could have been worse, stating, "Given that the driver had made an attempt to reduce his speed and to brake earlier, we took that into account as mitigating circumstances and imposed a 5-grid place penalty." Additionally, Hamilton received 2 penalty points on his license, his first in 12 months. The irony deepened when considering Hamilton's race performance. On lap 22, his Dutch Grand Prix ended not in battle with another car, but in a lonely spin into the barriers at turn 3. The banked corner claimed the Ferrari, after what Hamilton would later describe as a complete surprise. "It's definitely painful," he said. "I felt lots of positives. I felt like I was making progress. I was catching the car ahead, but I lost the car. That sort of incident, you can probably count on one hand for me." Ferrari team boss Fred Vasseur stood by his driver after the crash. "This was a bit of a special one," Vasseur explained. "The track was damp during the first drizzle, and it was wider than the lap before. We need to investigate if something happened on the car, but I don't think so." He praised Hamilton's performance, noting, "The reaction from Lewis was good. He was into the pace of the car and of Charles, catching up Russell and fighting with him. It was a good recovery after 2 tough races before the break." The penalty's timing couldn't have been worse for Hamilton, who had shown renewed pace in practice and qualifying at Zandvoort. For once, it appeared the storm might be clearing around the 7-time world champion. Hamilton himself acknowledged the mounting pressure. "There's obviously a huge amount of pressure on us as a team, and then more so on me now because I haven't had a good season." Now Hamilton arrives at Monza, the cauldron of Ferrari fandom, carrying a 5-place penalty on his back. Even if he secures pole position, he's guaranteed to start no higher than 6th place. The Tifosi expect redemption, but Hamilton faces an uphill battle from the start. The controversy deepens when examining the FIA's inconsistent application of penalties. Max Verstappen and Lando Norris were noted for exceeding delta times on those same pre-race laps, yet they received no punishment, no yellow flag breaches, no points on their licenses. The stewards were clear about their investigation process. "We looked through the available telemetry within the FIA system. We also requested the team to provide us with their telemetry data. All of this took some time, and this decision was delayed as a result." During the actual race, Charles Leclerc's aggressive move on George Russell resulted in no penalty, despite Russell's Mercedes taking damage and losing nearly a second per lap. The stewards called it a racing incident. Russell, clearly frustrated, told Sky Phone, I don't think I've ever seen somebody attempting to overtake on the outside of that corner. It kind of ruined my race." Leclerc remained unapologetic, stating, "I'll always be aggressive like that. It was on the limit, but I knew I wouldn't have many opportunities after that." Meanwhile, Kimi Antonelli received a 10-place grid penalty and 2 penalty points for his collision with Leclerc. The steward said Antonelli was wholly and predominantly to blame for the contact that ended Leclerc's race. This creates a puzzling pattern in FIA decision-making. Why does one driver's 20 km/h speed reduction get labelled insufficient, while another's race-ending contact goes unpunished? Why does Lewis Hamilton, a 7-time champion and Ferrari's marquee signing, face a Monza grid penalty for a moment that didn't affect a single car around him? Vasseur remained supportive of his driver, despite the controversy. Honestly, after the race, he was much more positive than the last 4 or 5 events. He was on the pace fighting Russell. "We recovered from Friday, so the mood was positive. He can take a lot from the weekend and build confidence for Monza." However, confidence feels fragile when every small mistake feeds into larger narratives about Hamilton's current form. The questions persist. Is Hamilton still at his peak? Is the Ferrari move working? Has the fire dimmed in the sport's most successful driver? The penalty represents more than just a grid position loss. It's potentially a message from the FIA that even legends don't receive special treatment anymore. As Hamilton faces the Monza pressure cooker with the Tifosi demanding results, one question remains. Will this penalty ignite Hamilton's competitive fire or mark the beginning of another challenging chapter in what has already been a difficult season? In Formula One, the real battles don't just happen on track. They unfold in the shadows between data analysis, political maneuvering, and public perception. Hamilton's Dutch Grand Prix penalty exemplifies this reality, where split-second decisions and microscopic speed differences can alter championship narratives and career trajectories. The implications extend beyond Hamilton's immediate Monza prospects. Ferrari's championship aspirations for 2024 now face additional obstacles, with their star driver potentially compromised at their most important home event. The Italian Grand Prix represents more than just another race for Ferrari. It's a showcase of national pride and team heritage where failure carries amplified consequences. Hamilton's penalty points accumulation also becomes significant. With 2 points now on his license after a clean 12-month period, any future infractions could result in race bans under FIA regulations. This adds another layer of pressure to an already challenging season transition. The stewarding inconsistency raises broader questions about Formula One's regulatory framework. When Verstappen and Norris escape punishment for similar Delta time violations while Hamilton faces penalties for speed reduction attempts, the sport's credibility suffers. Fans and teams deserve transparent, consistent application of regulations regardless of driver reputation or team affiliation. Hamilton's response to this adversity will define his Ferrari legacy before it truly begins, making Monza a pivotal moment in modern Formula One history.